Well, isn't that beautiful? I think so. The Artemis 1 mission a success, NASA ultimately aiming to return to the moon and then beyond. And now Artemis 2 gearing up, Stennis Space Center continuing to play a huge role in our country's return to the moon. Joining us now, Stennis Space Center Associate Director Rodney McKellip. Rodney, thanks for being with us. How exciting was that? There were some frustrating delays, I know, in the launch of Artemis 1, but then it was a picture-perfect mission. What's your sense of that now as you reflect on it?
Well, it's such a beautiful capstone to almost a decade of work that we had been doing down at NASA Stennis in preparation for that. The space launch system, the rocket part of the Artemis mission, from planning to design to development to testing, we've been at it for well over 8+ years, and got the dramatic core stage test done back in the middle of COVID in 2021. And so it was really a picture perfect ending for us.
Yeah, and then the splashdown
Do
on
that launch
December
and
11th
splash.
was beautiful. We just saw there at the very end of that graphic, which kind of told us that the Artemis traveled 1.4 million miles, circled the moon, returned within 25 and a half days. No human-related spacecraft has ever achieved that before. And now everyone's in Artemis 2 mode, right?
Right. So, the great thing about Artemis 2 is we're actually going to have a crew on board this time, a crew of 4 on Artemis 2 that will launch aboard an Orion capsule on the Space Launch System rocket and do their own lunar orbits and lunar flybys, be out for about 3 weeks and then return to Earth. So the first time was Artemis 1 was the practice run where we didn't have any crew on, and Artemis 2, which is currently scheduled to launch in 2024, will be the first time that we fly this new rocket with a new generation of astronauts aboard. So it's going to be an even more exciting mission in many ways than the uncrewed Artemis 1 mission.
And then ultimately the goal is to land on the lunar surface in 2025. We'll have the first woman on that crew, the first person of color. It appears as if Stennis is continuing to play a big role in that. I want folks to look at these photographs that we have right here, Rodney, because you guys are working on, what is this, the interstage simulator?
That's right. So after we completed the green run testing of the big first stage, what we call the core stage for the Artemis 1 mission, that very rocket that you saw launched was in the test stand at the B2 test facility, and we fired it the same length of time that we would fire it during launch. After we finished that, we've moved on to the next big test for Stennis in the development of this new rocket engine, which we call the exploration upper stage. So the first few Artemis missions are flying an upper stage that's not as powerful as we need it to be for subsequent missions. So NASA, with its partner Aerojet Rocketdyne and Boeing, are designing and building a new sort of turbocharged second stage, upper stage, that'll allow us to increase how much payload mass we can bring to the lunar environment by about 40%. And that interstage simulator, which we built down at the Michoud Assembly Facility and barged up to Stennis in September and hung it into the B2 test stand in December, is going to simulate the interstage section of the rocket and be eventually mated to that new upper stage when it arrives to be tested hopefully in 2024. So that'll be the next big milestone that we'll achieve on the B2 test stand as we sort of come full circle in history to utilize that B2 test stand for what it was originally designed and built for back in the 60s when it was the workhorse for the Apollo rocket testing. It's now going to be the workhorse for Artemis.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And, it's been said you can't get to space without going through Hancock County, and I know everybody's proud, everybody who works in this project. I mean, you mentioned a few of the companies that are involved. And a lot of folks are saying, well, why are we going back to the moon? What do we learn from going back to the moon? Why, we're spending billions of dollars. Personally, I support it. But what would you tell folks who ask that question?
I'm sorry, Dave, you broke up a little bit there.
What would you say to people who wonder, why are we going back to the moon? What do we get out of this?
Well, the ultimate goal of the Artemis program is to get to Mars, right? And it's going to take some time, and we need some practice. We need more experience with the current generation of space scientists and engineers, and the best way to get that experience for planetary exploration, for planetary surface operations, is to do it on the moon. It's closer, it's more attainable in the short term, while we work on those additional technologies that will allow us to go to Mars, establishing that lunar presence, and this time moving from sort of a temporary lunar presence like we had in Apollo to a sustained longer-term lunar presence will help us learn what we need to know and prepare us for the eventual goal, which is landing and having a presence on the Martian surface.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people understand that. I mean, the lunar component will be, as you say, a more permanent kind of station, which will allow travel from Earth to the moon, and then ultimately jumping from the moon to Mars. Do you have any idea in your mind, Rodney, when that would possibly happen in one's most vivid imagination, getting to the red planet?
I think it's achievable for us in the 2030s. Whether it's early 2030s or late 2030s, there's a lot of dependencies there. How quickly we and our partners can develop some of the necessary technologies, how the funding stream from Congress is maintained over the next decade or so. But it's going to be within our lifetimes, and going to be, I would say, with fingers crossed, within the next decade, that we'll be able to see those missions go farther than humans have ever gone before, past the moon and on to our closest planetary neighbor.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Happy New Year to you, Rodney. Thanks so much for being with us on WLOX News this week, and keep up the great work out there at Stennis.
Always glad to come on and talk about the great work going on at NASA Stennis. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, and thanks for watching. I'll see you back here next Sunday morning. Well, actually, I won't be, but the show will be on.